Everyone, me, Steve Trimble, to win the line once again. I'm recording this the same day as the tier list, so same shirt. But today, this video is going to be about the Skysplinter Assault tier list. Kind of a weird one. This one is one no one talks about, and I think it's slightly understated, but overlaps badly for itself with stuff like Spectacle Spite. I do think it has room to grow. I do think it's better than some other detachments like Real Space Raiders and stuff. So to begin, let's talk about the detachment. We'll go into the tier list, such like that. Before we do, I want to do my little plug. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to the video. It means a lot. Thank you everyone who's become a member and subscribed to the video. I vastly appreciate all that you're willing to hand me a couple of dollars here and there, that you love my content, and it makes me feel good, and I want to keep doing it. One last thing is I am starting a little weekly stream. My first one's on the 27th. I don't think this video is going to be out before then, so no, this is recorded for that. But over that, if the first one goes well, I'll try to do at least once a week on a Friday or a Saturday. If you want to ask me questions, you know, whatever the topic of the day is, such like that. So tune into those. Like I said, first one, the 27th, if this video comes out before then. All right, let's begin. Skysplinter Assault. This one's a transport detachment, and it has some interesting buffs. So each time a Drukhari model discard and disembarks, you gain ignores cover, which is essentially useless because you don't have any shooting infantry models that can go in transports. The best you have is a single dark lance and a blaster on a cavalry squad, so that doesn't come up like ever. And lance, which is the actual good part. This part's quite good, especially for our type of melee profiles, which is a lot of lower strength stuff and a lot of attacks, so that interacts very well with the lance. And lance is actually not really existent in the book. It doesn't like overlap like at all. Obviously, like Hellenes have it. We'll get to that. But like baseline, there's not like any strats and stuff to get it, so it doesn't actually overlap, which is nice. It overlaps kind of badly with things like anti, which things like loath stuff have, but overall it's very good. Enhancements. These are the weak links. These are not very good. First one, when you're within range of a transport, you get stealth and ignore and benefits cover. This is useless. Your models are made of paper. You don't want them to be outside of a transport anyways. Don't take this. Sadistic Fulcrum. When you spend a pain token, you can freely give a transport within range reroll hits. This one I think is actually quite decent because you can do nice things of just like disembarking. Potentially, say you have an Archon, you can like disembark him, give his unit reroll hits, shoot something, and then the transport next to someone get reroll hits. It's like quite nice on a Venom. If you have the 15 points, I quite like it because 15 is in especially Drukhari lists, you come up a lot of times with like 15 points extra. It's harder to get something like 25 or 20 for enhancement, but 15 is a lot easier. This one's kind of nice. And hypothetically, if you have a raider with dudes inside, giving that whole raider 4 real stand wound is quite nice, essentially because it's free. Spike for raider, 10 points. If you kill something on an objective, you get 1 extra paint token. This is useless. Yeah, it's like you're not really going to be taking this ever. So, like, I guess if you exactly have 10 points and you don't have a single unit you want to upgrade for 10 more points, maybe, but this will like never come up. 1 extra paint token essentially just says you potentially gain 1 paint token over a game. That's not worth 10 points. And then 20 points, Nightmare Shroud. A more restricted version of the Spectacle Spite, though, is 20 instead of 25. Its Spectacle Spite one was 20 points. This enhancement gives you ignore Overwatch if you disembark. It would be a lot better. Being 25 makes it really awkward. But 20 points makes you ignore Overwatch. I would not actively hunt to take this enhancement, but if you are in that bracket of taking, you have enough points at the end of your list to take an enhancement, this is the only one I would maybe potentially focus on. I would never like screw up my list to take it, but it can come up decently well because especially because, you know, like say you have Incubi with Lance, then they can hit quite well into things that are good at Overwatching generically. So giving the, you know, turning off the Overwatch is very helpful. All right, those enhancements and attachability, not a lot that good to be say. The detachability is decent and the enhancements are kind of crap. All right, stratagems. These are a very mixed bag. Some decent ones, some bad ones. First one, Vicious Blade, a transport model. After it's fought, you essentially grenade someone after it's fought. You roll a d6 for each model it's embarked. On a 5-bit does a mortal, and some 4-bits a rack. So you can do some cute things. That's the word for it. You can have a raider charge in, do a tank shock, do X amount of mortals, fight someone. If he has racks inside, he gets to fight with like D3 plus 14 or something attacks. I think it's plus 14. which is a lot. It's kind of funny. And then he'll do, you know, 10 dice rolls for 4 up doing mortals. Quite a lot of random damage. If racks were actually like good or like even remotely playable, this would be very interesting. But the point is that racks are quite overpriced and don't have a niche of their own. They overlap with things like witches and stuff way too much, where it's kind of sad. But this is kind of interesting. 1 CP Skyborn Annihilation. Your shooting phase. Pick a Drukhari unit that disembarked. Give them +1, and if they are Hand of the Archon or Cavalite, +2. This is essentially useless. Because neither of these units have guns. Hand of the Archon literally has 2 real guns. It has a blaster and a dark lance. And Cavalite warriors have 2 extra guns, one of which is a flamer, so it doesn't interact with +2. And one of their guns already has sustained 1, so you only have the same amount of guns that get sustained. And otherwise, just the bolters giving sustained hits too. At best, you are with an Archon, so you got 4 reels. But this is not going to come up. It's just essentially a bunch of bolters and a very, very niche mouse mesh weapons. And they don't have crits on 5s or anything. This is kind of bad. Wraith-like Retreat. The first actively very good stratagem here. Fight phase. 1 Drukhari unit that has fought this turn. You can make a fallback normal move as long as you end within 3 inches of a transport. So it's a full move. So 7 or 8 baseline for most things in your army. But if it's a witch, it does not have to end within range of a transport. Which is very good. Witches can just run away 8 inches or run forward 8 inches to move block people. And you get to re-embark, which is the important part. Because things like a very similar strat is the one from Renegade Raiders for CSM, which lets you make a fallback move or a normal move of 6 inches, but you cannot re-embark that turn if you disembark. This one you can, which is really nice. So this is very good. You know, it obviously is essentially the same ability as the Venom, but it lets you escape combat and go farther. Venom is holier than 6. This is make a move and then re-embark, so it's much farther range. This strat is amazing, and you'll be using it all the time. This is one of the actual big selling point of the enhanced detachment with this strat. This strat we'll get to in a second. All right, 1 CP, Swooping Mockery. It is a reactive move for a transport. It's luckily only 1 CP and a full reactive move of 6 inches, so a lot better than the Reaper's Wager one, which is D6 only. But this is restricted to transport, so it's a lot niche, but you have some cool interaction with it, like Raiders, who are ginormous, 3.5 inches long, so you can block a lot of space with this strat. Or, you know, just an auto reactive 6 is good no matter what, even if it's slightly restricted like this one. So this is a very good strat. Not much to say about that. Reactive moves are reactive moves. All right, Pounce on the Prey. 1 CP. Pick a Drukhari unit that disembarked for a transport this turn. You may charge. It's essentially gives you the Land Raider ability to any of your transports. It's very good for Incubi. It's less good for Witches. It's both very good and very bad for Witches. Because the Witches, you can do the 6-inch Raider disembark. So you can move your Raider 14 inches and then disembark 6 inches. Essentially a 20-inch movement. Why that's slightly awkward? Because in a lot of ways, Witches can move faster just advancing, charging on the ground. Just because of being infantry. But this is especially good on things like Incubi and technically Cavalites with Archons. Because they're vastly slower. There's no advance of charge. So them going 14 inches and disembarking 3 increases their range substantially. Yeah, increases their range substantially, and these are essentially the reasons you're going to play the actual region. These 2 strats plus the detachment ability, which are actual good reasons. I would say most like decent attachments don't have strats as good as these. It's just like a bunch of okay strats. These have 2 primo strats or primo strats and a pretty good attachment ability. So those are what you're aiming for when you're playing this attachment. And then finally this one, which is like whatever. This is from I think they enhanced maybe the old index, but it's 1 CP, or maybe I'm just used to people playing this in the index, but whatever. It's 1 CP, give any vehicle a 4-pin will save. It's fine. It's mostly best on Ravagers because they at least have a higher toughness, so they actually survive with the impulse save. But I'm not gonna say this strat is good because you only have 2 vehicles. I guess you can use it on like, no wait, they're monsters, so never mind. So yeah, you only have 2 vehicles and then the Ravager. And like one of those vehicles is a Venom, which has 6 wounds and it's T6. I think it's made paper. And the Raider's only T8. It's not really gonna help it too much. It's whatever. The strat's not great. Alright, tier list. Now we got the background. Alright, here it is. So first, Malice. It's another detachment where Malice gets rules, so she's S tier. Lance's actually quite good on her because her biggest weakness is having such an anemic strength value. So making, you know, wounding 5s and 4s to all the big things in the game, and then 3s and 2s to other things is very good. She'll still have her sus and or lethal. She'll have either, you know, she'll have incubi do a bunch of extra damage with, or with Cabalites, you know, with the lance and the 4s to wound that makes her hit obscenely hard. So she's potentially like a Cabalite person here. The redeploy is fine, as it always is. There's some niche things that make the redeploy better than most redeploys, because you can set up a pounce to play turn 1 alpha strike type of interaction, which is really nice, because if you can, like, say you have you can redeploy transfer into an area where you can just go straight 14 to spark 3, you just got a 17-inch movement into a charge. That's very nice. You can do something like that. But otherwise, you know, just her Vectora, or being an above average toughness for a Drukhari character. OC2 is always good. She's very good here. Lilith and the Witches. Like I said, the attach ability is kind of a non-bow slightly with Lilith in the infantry side, but it means she can actually kill big things, which is good because it's her biggest weakness. And the ability to have a big Lilith squad be able to run back inside of a transport is actually quite huge. It's like because usually Lilith is just a suicide. She runs and kills something and stands there to fight first. Beast kind of annoying. If you challenge Met, if you play split, you can challenge Met, but like say Reaper's Wager or something, they just die. This attachment, you have actual rules. Like you have the Wraithwake Retreat, which is really, really good. You can potentially use Pounce on the Prey interaction, especially if you don't have the Pain Token Economy to be able to advance and charge them. So that's very nice. And like I said, it lets this unit punch up into things they're not notoriously good into, which is very good. So she's great. Lilith's always good if you give her rules to do stuff. She's always just good, but she's very good in things when she has rules. All right, the Venom. This is the transport attachment. This is one of the best units in the army always, and this is especially good here for all the things we talked about. You need to be disembarking. It's the most efficient way to transport incubi and such, and 5-man witches if you want to go that way. Like this is one of the attachments. Also, you can run more 5-man witches. Like Reaper's Wager and other attachments are not as good. Obviously, Spectral Spite, you see me running a million of them, but like them just running out and lancing people for 45 points, it's very good. They'll actually hit really hard, which is very exciting, very cool. So Venom's just amazing. Mr. Archon. Mr. Archon loves this detachment. That's one, his pain token thing, he doesn't overlap like it does in Reaper's Wager, because he gets full reels to hit. So now he's full reels to hit and land, so he actually will make up for that awful strength value he's got. So he interacts very well with stuff like Incubi, giving them full reels to hit and lance. Amazing. Or is the Cabalites. So he's just great. There's strats here he actually wants to use for free, like Pounce on the Prey, Wraithwake Retreat, things like that. And obviously just grenades and such. So he's got like a lot of things he likes in this attachment. So he's I would say better in this attachment than most. This is one of his better attachments. The only downside is he doesn't have doesn't really have any enhancements. Like I said, there's that one, whatever they are, Nightmare Shroud, which can also be used on succubuses, which I quite like here for the things I was talking about earlier, and then the reroll thing, which is quite nice. Incubi, this is one of their best attachments except for Cabalite Cartel. This one, obviously Cabalite Cartel just hits harder, but this one has the supreme benefits of making them insanely faster and more mobile, which is really good. That's the biggest issue with Incubi is they're not really mobile. They're just 7-inch moving dudes who walk up the field and, you know, T3 with 1 wound. Technically, one guy has 2 wounds, but whatever. It's not going to help them. They're just going to die. It's not like a Space Marine where maybe you can actually efficiently walk up the board and not just expect to die to random crap. So very good here. They love Lance. That was like their biggest downside, being strength 5. That solves that issue a lot of times, so they'll kill most things. They love the Archon buff, such like that, and they love things like Wraithwake Retreat and whatever this one was called, Pounce on the Prey. So they like all these buffs extremely. So it's very good. Raider. Raider's very good here. This is the only other attachment besides Spectacle Spite where I think you can run multiple Raiders. Raider's amazing. Like I said, 10-man Lilith I think is the best way to run Lilith, and no matter what. So you need a Raider for that. And then you have the interactions of like, you know, using, I can never remember the name, Pounce on the Prey with like a 6-inch disembark, which is really, really good. Or just like shoving like, you know, a couple incubi, multiple incubi squads in there. Because like, it's just a lot cheaper because with a Venom, you're overpaying for the transport capacity because it's like 15 less points than a Raider because half the transport capacity. If you're just putting incubi in it, you don't have the benefit. And then, you know, incubi really like Wraithwake Retreat into a Raider. So that's very good there. So Raider's just great. All right, good choice. Scourges. They're just Scourges. They have no buffs here. You can't even use Skyborn Annihilation on them, so they don't like have any strats they can use. They are just here to be a scourge. It's the best gun we have, so if you actively want a gun, there you go. It interacts quite well with the transport style of this detachment specifically, so you're probably running 1 to 2 squads of scourges every time. Mandrakes, I just put all like the random 5-man units in this category because they all, Catalites kind of do more, but they all interact very rare with the detachment. Catalites interact slightly more, obviously, but they're all essentially the same thing. It's like, which 5-man doer unit do you want more? Do you want 3 Reavers? Do you want 5 Mandrakes? Do you want 5 Hellions? Do you want some more Catalites to go do your actions, block off primary, do stuff like that? Because they're all, you know, essentially equal here. I would say Mandrakes and Reavers are the best. That's why I put them in the tier. And Hellions are the worst because there's no synergy with Hellions here at all. They're just a day sheet. And I think I would rather have things like Incubi than Hellions in most instances here. But you know, you got Mandrakes, which are fine. They're the only person who can use this strat for whatever reason. If you put them in a transport, ooh, they get sustained 1 and double ignores cover. Sweet. That's not good. So they're just there to teleport around, and that'll help because this is like similar thing like maybe Reaper's Rage a little bit, and more like Cartel, where you essentially are playing a much more expensive version of the army because you are running a lot more characters, a lot more expensive Archons, Malice, potentially Jazzer and stuff. That eats up points. You want those cheaper doer units. I think Mandrakes are the best. Reavers are the next best. And then more Catalites are the third best. I think Hellions are the worst. I guess these are more of like a support unit than just like an action unit. Like a more support to the character, I should say. They're better for buffing their character than these guys are. Catalites are fine. This is a fake buff for them, to be fair. Lance, they have 1 sword that's also a poison weapon, so it doesn't even work against infantry models. You know, having the Archon maybe a 4 reels to wound, and then Lance is pretty nice, I guess. It's another thing I've always said about Catalites is your opponent gets to choose if you have the 4 reels to wound, which is not my favorite interaction. I've said many times I'm not a fan of Catalites. They're just too expensive. But you're probably almost certainly taking a minimum 1, which is probably 2, because you're probably gonna split it with a Venom, because you want the transport anyways. You just get them out and to put something good inside that Venom. I don't know if you're gonna take multiple squads. Because they're so expensive. Like a Mandrake is 40 less points, I think, which is a lot less. These are 45 less points. Even these are cheaper. There's a lot of things I'd rather have more Catalites. Kronos. It's the same as other attachments that don't need the pain tokens as much. He is just efficiently priced. He likes to stand around. He doesn't do anything. But he likes to stand on objectives, be durable, and give you sometimes get some pain tokens. So he's fine. He's very good. Reavers, Hellions. I kind of said my point on Hellions. They are just an efficient day sheet on the surface, but they have no synergy with the detachment. So they're just like, do I want a fast early game skirmisher to suicide turn 1? Yes, you might play these. You have to like think if you'd rather have Hellions instead for cheaper. If no, you're just gonna play Incubi over them because they have actual real synergy with the detachment. They'll hit harder and such like that. And the Archon. This is still mostly untested because they're still relatively new, the buffs. But I do like Hand the Archon for the reasons I said. I liked Hand the Archon and Reaper's Wager and Cowboy Cartel because it really synergizes well with the Archon. I'll actually give him more melee because I don't like him fighting people by himself. Like I said, with Catalites, if he's by himself, he's the only one who does any melee damage. So he can just whiff. You can just whiff and then your unit does nothing. But here you have 3 melee weapons to synergize with him. They'll give him lethal hits, and that synergizes very well with his lance and reroll hits. So like he can punch up quite well on that interaction. Then plus his own weapons here. And then they have scouts, the only scout in the book, and that's really nice. So you can do some interesting Archon plays. Like you can do like say for instance, a real life instances. You can scout up your Venom for 6 inches or 7. It's got 7, and then move 14, and then disembark your Archon. That's a 21 or a 24-inch disembark from an Archon turn 1 if you want with the squad, and then you can go beat the shit out of something. And then potentially, since you have 2 CP with an Archon, you can run back inside your transport, or just the Venom can let you do it automatically. So it's a really like a real life scenario that could happen, which is very cool. Or just doing that with an Archon anyways without an Archon, like that's potentially cool. I don't know. There's going to be more testing than Archon. It's so weird because they are just so expensive. They are just like maybe worse Catalites that costs more, which is very annoying. Like if you want to know my real points, this is 90 points. This is 100 points. This is what the units should be, but they're not. So we got to use them as is. Fine. Catalysis. They're as fine as they always are. There's not much to say here that I haven't said in other attachments. There's worse here because there's no rules for them at all. It's just like, do I want a Scourge that does more rolls, like it fights and it has OC and it's slightly durable, but it's not uninteractable and it technically shoots slightly worse or more points. That's what you gotta ask yourself. That's really the only thing. I think they're fine. Most of my lists don't have them, but I'm not gonna bring anyone who brings them because they do have a dedicated niche, and that niche is being the most durable unit in the army. It's very nice. Succubus. I've said my piece on Succubus many thousands of times. She's efficient. She's incredibly cheap. She quite likes the +1 to wound because it'll let her punch up a little bit. And the witches with lance really love sustained. She's very good. Drazar is awkward here because he completely interacts badly with detachment ability because his whole thing is giving +1 to wound. So Archon leads Incubi much better than him in this detachment. But he is just still the best damaging fighter, and he really likes both these strats. So like, he's a very awkward detachment ability, but he's very good with. 1 second. He's very good with these strats and stuff. I think I would rather take Archons leading Incubi in most situations than him. But I would never berate anyone for taking him because he is just good on the surface. And like I said, he interacts with those strats well. All right, niche. These little dummies, the Shard Carbine guys. It goes again to what I've said many times. They don't have anything that's worth buffing. They're way too expensive. And their 16 Deep Strike is not very useful, especially in this army. It's just there's many things I would rather take. Like a Talos is the same price, I think. Maybe Talos will have more points. Or like any of these characters the same price, like an Archon, a Lilith, are the same price. This guy's 5 more points. It's slightly less than a whole Incubi squad. It costs more than a Venom. It's slightly less than a Raider. All these things I'd rather take over Shard Carbines, especially in this detachment where you don't have any shooting buffs, so they're even less value than they normally are. I would steer mostly clear of these unless you have a really specific plan, which doesn't really apply to this detachment very much. The Ravager. He's very close to do not touch because there's literally there's one thing, like I said, you have this strat, which is fine. I would not say it's good. But you have very little shooting buffs. Oopsies. You have very little shooting buffs in this detachment. Essentially none. He doesn't interact with detachment ability. He doesn't shoot very hard baseline. He's just only slightly cheap for a vehicle. He doesn't like do a lot. If I was just gonna take shooting, I'd rather have Taloses and Shard Scourges any day of the week. Even Mandrakes and Hellion and Reaver shooting. Oopsies, go back to your spot. So I would mostly stick to this. Like I said, there's always that somewhat thing if we're on an elite infantry meta and their deep strike shooting helps, but we're not there, so that's why it's just not specifically do not touch. Racks. Racks are very close to do not touch because they're bad, like I said, but I did bring up the cute interactions you can do with them with the full Raider Vicious Blade interaction. Their melee with Lance is actually decent because it's, let's say, the full buff. If you're now 4 attacks, twin linked at strength 4 -1, Lance and such, that's fine. It's like a slightly better witch because it's twin linked, but that's about it. Better than the normal witches because the other witches are, I guess they're only strength 4 in attachment. So it is mostly just better than the witches. Though they cost way more points. They're so slow, which can be helped with Prounce on the Prey. But you're wanting to use these things on Incubi. Oopsies. You're wanting to use those strats on Incubi and even witches and Tabloids kind of way more than Racks. Racks are only here because they have a one niche specific interaction that could come up. And if they get points reduction, like down to like 11 or 10, then they're actually quite interesting. And do not touch. The planes, nothing to say here. There's no synergy with planes, and the planes are already terrible. And Mr. Homunculus, he's terrible. He's so bad. One of the worst units in the army. He doesn't do anything. He has no synergy. Like I said, a CP thing is just one Chronos aura that you can only do once per turn instead of as many paint tokens as you have. And then his battle shock thing is not good because it's just in your opponent's command phase. I take extra tests. That doesn't really matter. And then he leads Racks and resurrects them. And Racks don't survive enough to be resurrected, and you don't want to take Racks anyways. So he's awful, and he's too expensive. And like I showed the last heroes, he's one of the least durable characters in the game. T4, like 4 wounds, the 5-up save. Why doesn't this guy have a good invul save? It's crazy. Like this, she has a 4-up invul save, for God's sakes. Yeah, there you go. That's the tier list of Skysplinter Assault. I quite like Detachment. Like I said, I think it's very cool. This thing got messed up. I don't know how this happened. Let me fix that. Good enough. I quite like Detachment. I Lance baseline is very nice and has some very good strats. A couple. It's just lowered down mostly because Spectacle Smite mostly does what this is doing, but better, except for the interactions with Incubi, which are a bit too overpriced to be fair. But I don't think in it, like on the surface, Detachment is bad. So there you go. My next one will be Coven Coterie, whatever the attachment's called. That'll be the next one, which is very cool. Kind of excited for that one. Coven's very cool. I've always said the Coven attachment is good. It just doesn't have enough support. Like there's not enough sheets and stuff for it. But all right, that's the tier list. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe. Once again, like the beginning of the video. And thank you everyone who's become a member to my channel. And I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.